Hello, Gloria. Very nice to have you as a guest for the new episode.
Hello.
It took us some time to arrange this meeting, but I'm happy we finally did it.
Thank you for reaching.
How are you today? How are you feeling?
Oh, well, it's a wonderful day. And I cannot describe it too loud, but like when the sky is like crisp blue and then no hot, and it's very hot. And so now everything is sparkling. So I feel good. I go very much with the weather sometimes. So I feel good. And then downstairs, as I'm speaking now to you in the office of Casanave, downstairs, there is the big hall where there is a course and the organs. And my colleagues, Marcella Fanzaga and Maria Martinez, are teaching. And I reserve this time the luxury of not teaching and only going the first day and the last day, and then trusting completely to let my colleagues to hold the group. And so I can attend many other things that need to be attended in this moment of the year when everything starts, So I'm busy
Nice.
with the new beginning after the summer.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of workshop is in progress?
Organ system.
Mm-hmm.
This is a small group of students who lost the course because of the pandemic, and then they sort of tried to catch up and then complete their certification. And so we decided to make a little and louder sacrifice because, with a small group, it's a big sacrifice. But we would like to give the opportunity to these people to complete, and then they get their graduation. And there's always a reward for that because people become attached in a way to the community, to Levine, and then they come back and then they form sort of networking. And that's what I'm working for. I mean, I'm fascinated with the training, but I'm also more fascinated with after the training, what happens when people leave and graduates, where do they go in the world? So, the relationship with people that are woven little by little, and I don't want to lose waste the energy that they put to arrive to this point. So we both make a little sacrifice to complete.
Well, when I think of my training, I often say that the most valuable thing that I got from the BMC training was actually the human connections,
Mm-hmm.
which remain after the course. And just this thing about being immersed with a group of people in deep somatic work, I feel it allows us to connect with each other on very deep levels. And actually skip some layers that we would have to go through, let's say, if we met in some other circumstances.
Exactly. It's true. And then there are two things that I think that are important to underline. One is the balance and the strong relationship between personal and professional in our training, and how deep we work with in the relational field between people, and then how that matches and feed and nurture the professional aspect. And the other thing is that I'm glad that you pointed out this because what you said, because we're actually making a point of this in the new training. We decided to add to the 4 developmental courses that are going to be our next cycle, some tutoring, study groups, and following the students between courses in an online form. Mm-hmm. So we wish in this way to even give more value to what you said that happens during the training, which is intense and then, well contained, but to give other forms of containment and of openness to dialogue and to relationship using the online form, because we learn something about it and then we want to use it in a smart way, not just depend on it, but to make this, to give this continuity. And there are already some study groups happening now, group of 3, maximum 4 people in the practitioner program that are giving incredible results. That's like what you said about establishing strong connection. Now it's happening with someone living in Toscana, Emilia, Romagna, Milano, but they see each other online between courses, and they study together, and everything is like going at a higher level somewhere. Right. They're so mature now. When they come back for the training in the course, in the module, I can see the effect of what they have done as a self-learning, but not alone, but with this networking and study groups, etc. And we would like to add the tutoring. So we are planning for the next training, the teachers to follow groups, small groups at times to check how they're planning the work and what is happening in their real everyday life, I'm very curious to see how we develop that, because it's new. We never did it before.
Nice. I think that's an amazing idea, because often people, they feel very inspired during the course. Mm-hmm. The connection is very strong. And I always notice this desire to continue with it after the course. But then somehow everybody gets into their own lives, and it's kind of like this enthusiasm kind of like dissipates a little bit.
That's true.
If there is not like a clear structure to encourage connection, studying, and
one element of this that you're saying is that people go back to their home, to their everyday life, and they don't find the words, they don't find the way to communicate what they experience so deeply. And so they need support, but the teacher cannot support one by one everybody. And it's also it's not fair in a way. It's much better when peers support each other in that, and then inspires each other. Say, okay, you cannot describe the things when you go to propose the project to an institution and say, why don't you say it in this other way? Why don't you try? So it's like it's a big important form of support for the everyday life, to bring the everyday life, being seen to the everyday life, I think.
And I would like to talk a little bit more about this, because I noticed it not only in the BMC training, but any kind of intense workshop, retreat setting. There is this dense condensation of experience. But what would be, in your opinion, good ways to integrate these things into the everyday life?
Mm-hmm. Well, now one thing comes to my mind is to think of the history of BMC training. When I did the training, we were blowing our mind during the courses. It was crazy. It seems like we had gone on a LSD or something. I mean, it was very cathartic. Then over the years, there has been a moderation. Now, moderation is not a word, like a balancing. Better, we realize that to go, for example, into trauma with something so cathartic can be re-traumatize the situation. So we realized how important is change little by little. Small, at the dose that the nervous system can process, can elaborate. And that's gradually changed our way of teaching, our way of supporting the group dynamics. to regulate things, at the same time allowing people to have their experience. Over the years, I noticed also increasing maturity of the people. I mean, beginners of 20 years ago are very different than beginners now, because somatics is more spread in society, because there is more talk about body mind, and there is more, it's more absorbed in the culture. So also the training has to match this advancement of society in a way, or certain part of society at least, and then change the words, change the way of communicating. So I feel that, at least in our training in Italy, we care a lot for this balance. We don't want to, come si dice, we don't want to inhibit, any processing, emotional processing, deep processing of people, but we don't want to also stimulate it when we feel that the person is not ready for a self-containment of that. Or if it's not self-contained, it's like the maturity to receive support enough to contain themselves. Because sometimes you have to be ready to receive support and use it for balancing yourself, for self-regulation. So I feel like something is changing during the models, and then in the everyday life, people have to deal with this reality. If you had a big insight and a big change during the training, then you cannot go to your husband and then say, "Oh, you have to experience that." You have to learn to respect other form of experience of other people. And so that's part of the professional issue classes sometimes, when we deal with also, with the differences, with different way of processing, different way of learning. So the first step is learning that among the people in training, so within the group, and then how to transport that for when you go outside. But there's nothing we can do. I mean, you have to deal with this difference. You have done something very deep and very important in your process, and then the other person did other things or did not do that. So you cannot expect that they understand immediately. So it's a big issue. I mean, you're touching a point that it's interesting, but I think that in the training we have to develop the skills to welcome other people who are not doing BMC, and like learning from them, and not going like, "Oh, we did BMC and we know we're that from top to bottom." No, they have to learn the other way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also often when we have these experiences that touch us deeply, somehow there is an automatic need to share it.
Yeah.
And I made mistakes often in my life when I had these experiences, and then I would approach somebody and, "You need to experience this." Like I had a feeling that the whole world would be better if they had a similar experience. But then I realized that we are also different and individual, and that there is no guarantee that my experience will be shared by someone else. And the same experience could be even harmful for the other person. So it's like at a certain point, I just realized that there is really no, like I can only give my example, but not really invite other people to do certain things unless they feel a really strong call.
Right. Now that's where the study group comes in, the importance of the support of the peers with whom you can share, but you can also share how they deal with this with others. So it's not, to feel supported in this desire, and then satisfied in a way the desire for sharing within the study group, within the small group of peers, and then to share their relational issues with the outside world. So I'd like to bring BMC in the outside world in this indirect way. I think is interesting. But I mean, that's not a recipe for this. Yeah. And with that desire to share, it's human, but also can tell something about your sense of self, your core self, how you nurture that. And so there can be an element of awareness and consciousness. If this desire is so much, that makes you feel miserable, that something needs to be nurtured more on a core self level. That's something to look at when, now you make me think about it. I mean, this conversation stimulates that. I think can be one function of the tutors, of the mentors. Also, we check that with students who process their experiences. Yeah, that's a point. It's not just how the material of but how you contain yourself in the process of change, in the process of embodiment.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
It's very interesting for me, this idea how the trainings and the experiences used to be a much more cathartic and explosive. And then after a certain time, as if a certain field is formed, then that field stabilizes, and the people who come in, they come in with more experience, and it's like the pioneers do the heavy lifting, I would say. Yeah. And then they set up a certain...
Break the forest.
Exactly. Yeah, like trailing to the jungle with the machete.
But I don't regret any single moment of that. I mean, when I talk to my peers, to people of my generation, I met Bonnie in 86, 87. I did the first workshops, and then the training started in 1990. So when I meet some people of that time, they also feel but it was, because now we can see it in a distance and with the maturity of today. So there's something romantic, a little bit heroic, but I don't think it would be appropriate in today's world and in this moment. Without the myth of that because we had it, other people had to do the same. Something has changed in the world, not just in us. And then BMC was something like nobody knew. There was only one place, which was Amherst or Northampton in US. And now there are 15, 16 centers all over the world, and more talk about this. And we keep selling the book. We're surprised sometimes to say, well, people write to us to send the book, that they want to buy the book of Bonnie, and someone who we never heard about. And so before was a very restricted number of people, and now it's more spread. So kind of be the same.
Yeah. Of course. And what is your vision for this spreading? When you had this a larger view of before and now, I was introduced to this interesting concept and idea about how often in the Western culture, and especially in business or any kind of structure, there is this idea of growth, but unlimited growth. And eventually all systems in a way fall to this trap and kind of like, in a way, get diluted when they start becoming too mass oriented.
Yeah.
What would be your vision for the growth of this work, this deep, beautiful work with the body?
Thank you, even for touching this topic. It's something that exactly what I'm reflecting a lot about in this moment of my process with the direction of this BMC organization. Because especially after the pandemic, there was a switch of thinking. What I captured from society, from people, from reading, from looking around, I see that something I haven't thought before, but now I feel like training is not for all. BMC training, professional high training, I'm talking about. And there should be more forms of sharing the benefit and the good things of this work, its philosophy, its approach for everyday life. It's like no high training. And somehow to make this step is going to take a change of mind. And not yet. There's not yet, because I don't think that the BMC training can expand so much without consideration, application, implementing what we learn in the training into society. It's not necessarily an automatic step. For people to know how to transfer those experiences into the different populations, children, special needs, dancers, but like even business people or whoever, it takes a big work. Elaborate some ways of doing that, to be able to enter institutions, to be able to enter schools, to be able to be credibili, come si dice, attainable, like they listen to you, they understand the value of things. It's not automatic. So my vision is to find ways to support Levine, because so far it has been supported by students. A lot of people wanted to do this training. Then, something changed. So now there's a financial things, there are concrete things to understand how to do it. So that's not the only way. The high training cannot just be the only way to support an organization that wants to be more than the graduate, some people. They want to be a reference place for society. So networking, projects. You mentioned when you wrote to me the WhatsApp, the Sparks, the European project that we did. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a way to go, I feel, to spread, to expand, make BMC contaminated in a way by other things, comparing, collaborating with other forms. Because BMC is not another technique, another smart technique. It's an integrating ground where all things can go and then take and then get better. So often I say to my students, you have another gear when you have BMC, but you can continue to be a Feldenkrais person or a Pilates person or a dancer with BMC. So not everybody has to be a BMC teacher.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? My vision is to try to support more the applications and projects as much as possible, and then curate the training at the higher level, a little bit higher level. I feel like we have to go a little step up in the way we do training. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of being formal or informal, rules and not rules of how much money it costs. It's not that. It's a new concept of personal professional together. Mm-hmm. How that as a value, but the professional has to be really high. As the personal has to be skilled. People with personal skills, if we can say this expression, relational, skills. So that's my vision for the next training. And an experiment is going to be an experiment. We are only going to propose the 4 developmental courses, not all training, but not also course by course. You do just senses and perception and then goodbye. What you do with 4 days? Exactly. Why spend, that money to do what? So the difference between a workshop and a training. I feel like I have to work a little more on that. Mm-hmm. And then after people think about it, why don't you invest a time of your life and of your resources? And we come to you, we make the payment plan, we follow you to make this investment worth at both levels, personal and professional. But cannot be all either or, So you point at the last issue at the moment, for me. Yes.
And a very important one. And I also feel that every person has a personal responsibility to maybe explore more deeply the motives why we are joining a training. And also to have a realization that the training is not a workshop, but that it's a level deeper. But then again, it takes also a little bit of honesty towards oneself and recognizing the idea that even though BMC is very horizontal and inviting to everybody, but like you said, it's not possible that everybody becomes a teacher, nor it's needed.
Even for this reason, we decided that the senses and perception in December is going to be a real introduction, and we added 1 day of orientation. And then I want to reserve the possibility to say someone, maybe this is not exactly the thing for you. Mm-hmm. Or to say this, I think this is, but not from, again, not from top to bottom, but through working at 1 day of orientation together. So having people work their motive, like you say, their motivation, and then their vision. And then to understand if the investment that they think of doing is matching that. Or maybe they're shy, or they think, oh, I will never make the money. And maybe they have a talent, then to see how we can support that. So I think 1 day of orientation before a training is absolutely necessary. So I will accept everybody who will register for the first course, but then we have to see for the following 3 courses who and,
I understand.
And why and how. So I think this is, and then I don't know if we're going to follow with INME or SME, because I don't want to decide from here, from my idea. I want to see what's happening in the world. Is there more need for going into developmental work, or more need for movement, education, something? Mm-hmm. So I have to think in a different way than I did always before.
Mm-hmm. Mm. But it's beautiful that you are being so fluid and listening to the present moment in a way. Setting sail, but not really having a too defined course, but having the opportunity to create it in the moment.
I don't know. Maybe since my youth, I always been. Also, I come from a family that we always been politically aware. Society, political view, in the big sense of political. You know what I mean? The large community, the collettività. So I'm I look at that to see if what I do in my local little things, how relates to the bigger view.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because I don't know, it's my character, I don't know, or my culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but now I think about it, I say local. I don't know if you look at any of the Bonnie's classes,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like one thing that struck me about those classes and the nervous system and perception that she did, the last one, was this how she was working with local initiation, local activation, but how the whole body feels that and include that. And how the mind can have this both level, local and global, on the nervous system level, on the cellular level. So, well, I mean, that was a simple association with what we said before in terms of society, and that maybe also in the body there is this possibility of evolving this ability the human has to expand their consciousness in this way. So, right. And today, this morning at 9 o'clock, I went to an osteopath because I had a surgery, So I had a discussion with him because I found that it's someone who has this intuitively, I don't know, because of the training, but is not limited to the local aspect of something. It really has a bigger view of the whole body. Like, other people, physical therapy sometimes, other body worker, they concentrate on something, but we lose the connection with the whole body.
Yeah, I would say that's the problem of today's medicine, that we have a specialist for this, specialist for heart, specialist for urinary bladder, whatever. We separated everything, but where's the connection?
Yeah. Well, it's also good to be a specialist, but but not with this fragmentation of what the whole picture is about. Yeah.
So what would you say BMC in particular teaches us about this fragmentation in relation to a whole? Because that's what we do. We in a way separate the systems, but then integrate them together at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we arrive with a new consciousness.
We deal with this issue in the practitioner program. When we do the SME training, we need to spend time in the more analytical way, in the more separating things to go deeper. Although I think that over the years, again, you see how things evolve. Also, SME can be taught differently, in a less analytical way, already with some more transversal approach when you do one system without losing the bigger picture. In the shadow, maybe, or when we introduce embryology in the teaching, in the systems, in the explorations. It's amazing because embryology, although it's something so primary and so in the dark of our experience to bring back to the surface, but then can be a unified element when things are still potential, when things are still undifferentiated, but they are going towards a differentiation. And so that's already the mind changes that you don't either differentiator or global. You already have the sense of process. And so I think teaching SME can also benefit from maintaining always in the in the background, in the frame, this idea of context, of the context of the body-mind. And but in the practitioner program is when this comes to a higher and also very satisfactory way, when the students begin to feel comfortable in this labyrinth that is the body-mind system in development and evolving body-mind. So when they feel comfortable to get lost, but then to take an element and then to relate it with the relational aspect of body-mind centering approach, it's come to concrete. It becomes real. And so you go like system and development, for example, it's a course that begins to open up this different approach, or especially the courses of the 4 year. You know, the 3rd year you're still doing immune system, embryology, separated breathing and vocalization, but the level of going into specific themes, a specific aspect of the body it's already with this open frame and wider. I call it a labyrinth. It's a labyrinth.
A labyrinth.
Yes, I like the metaphor of the labyrinth.
Uh-huh.
And I like the fact that the more you interact, you get lost, the more you have fun with it, and you don't have fear. And and you can accompany someone with you in the labyrinth, and then leave them alone for a moment and take maybe entering in some place and they're exiting completely different place you didn't imagine. So analytical, and it's not even the synthesis, it's more than the synthesis, not just. It's like, it's an expansion of consciousness, a mind that can conceive at the same time something specific and something global.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautiful when that happens. And it's a work. It doesn't happen naturally.
Of course,
something to develop.
Yeah.
And then developing that is also learning. How do you develop that?
Mm-hmm. So
it becomes part of the result in a way. I don't know if I express myself, but
yeah. It becomes a process of developing an individual style.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How to walk through this labyrinth.
Yeah. And there is not one way of doing it. That's what makes things more complicated. We all teachers, we are very different in the way we approach them. And then the good things is like we often complementary. And so we don't exhaust just one way of learning. And so we often, maybe students, they feel better with one, they feel better with another, because of the learning approach are so different in the group, among the people in the group. But the magic thing that there is this thread that allow us to get lost together, but to be together, to find the way, to find the continuity of the learning. And that's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, when one teaches a workshop, and now I'm doing a workshop, but for everyday life people, like not specific people. I call it mobile, which is Latin word, mobile, and it means many things. There's so many meanings, unbelievable. One is to give birth.
Oh, wow.
Yes, very nice. But anyway, I said, what I want to say is that one teaches one on by myself, then I express myself. I mean, I don't need to go on a program or something. That's my experience, and I share my experience. There is BMC, but there is dance, and there is Tai Chi and other things that I've done in my life. But then when we do the training, then that it's like each of us has to confront. I mean, not confront. It's not in Italian. In Italian, it's not confrontation. It's like confront, to face. That's the word. To face. Each of us has to face not oneself. Something common, which is the tradition of BMC, and also maybe bringing a new contribution to this tradition, but finding the match with the others and following the program, following the curriculum. The curriculum always changes.
Yeah. I was reading, I saw the post about your workshop, Moveo. There was a sentence about finding different ways of expression. And that's what's always interested me, because I've kind of realized that by doing the somatic work and coming more into touch with my own body and my own movement, I felt that I'm unlocking more creativity inside of myself, which then allows me, to play music more freely, to write more in a different way, to walk in a different way. What is your take on this human body as a repository of creativity that needs to be discovered? And how can somatic work help us in that?
The first thought that came to my mind is children, a child. It's like a bundle of creativity. Like if it's not traumatized or restricted by something. Well, I think the BMC work or somatics maybe more generally goes to the inside, right? So the person goes to oneself, to the inner self. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is not just you drawn into yourself and you get lost into yourself, but that it's for seeing how you establish a relationship with the outside. So I think that's the key for me. The continuity, the continuum between going in and going out, being in and being out. How that, I'm not thinking on the training now, because then we work in the training, we work on the nervous system, autonomic nervous system, which is a big key about this. But with the lay person, it's like even to give them the possibility to not being afraid to go inside, because there's some people that are not trained to. You just tell them, feel this what? I mean, they don't have the practice of being able to feel, to sense, to have a sensation. But so when you weave that into a sort of resolution of that going into oneself, and then they see that energy, let's say, is moving out, then there is a feedback. People feel that they have expressed something and they get inspired. And then so they get more encouraged to go more in, and then they go more inspired to go out. So I'm thinking, like, when I was a modern dancer, I spent many years of living locked into myself. My intimate self was in a prison, in a way. And I was not very gentle with my body. And when I was performing, I had a wall in front of me. I didn't have an audience. It was a mirror or a black thing, because, with the light, you don't see the people. So relationship zero, in a way, about this in and out. I was either into myself, or the outside was something that rebounded into myself, because I could not really engage in a relationship through that training, through that way of treating the body, So when things started to change, and that happened in 1985, 84, when I met Elaine Summers for the first time after an accident I had. And I saw that there was this perception of the inner world, but that would have an effect on the relationship with the outside. Then something opened up, and then I became a much better choreographer after my accident, and after I dropped the modern dance techniques and I studied somatic, because all of a sudden, well, there's another element. I dropped judgment. But the moment you learn to accept and feel and elaborate in a sensation, and then to be judgmental, it's so evident in a way. It's more evident. And so to have someone who encourage you to drop this judgment, the judgmental things, and then those inner discoveries becomes element of relationship with someone, then so much joy and so much satisfaction and inspiration. There was a time where I was working with the audience, but not in the provocative way, with some of the dance and performance where it used to be that we provoke the audience. But I was really making a point in my choreography to take from the audience, to feel this membrane between me and them. And I don't know if there was more creativity, but definitely was keeping me up night, elaborating things. It was giving me energy. Then I didn't feel the need to be on stage anymore at some point. I mean, my life went in a different direction when I really met Bonnie and the training. Or let's say that my passion for relationship and creativity took another form. I don't regret anything, having lost my performing life. But I don't know if I am answering your question, but something about is the joy, is the passion that brings creativity out. You cannot be inspired when you are depressed, or vice versa. You cannot be depressed if you get inspired. So I think the somatic work of BMC specifically can help to open up this inspirational. I'm thinking of all the experience that we do with the organs, with the glands, and then with the fluids. I mean, it gives me goosebumps. I mean, it's the essence of creativity. Then what to do with that, that's another thing. Again, it's work. It's not automatic. If you want to become a choreographer using BMC and the work with the systems, and then you have to work. You have to experiment. Like a writer, you can do one day you write a book and boom, out of the blue. But the writer sits there every day and writes. So I think it's the same for the arts. They are not just that. So we are different things. I mean, I'm talking about too many things at the same time, but I hope you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. But you are absolutely right. I think this is a very important element to add to this creativity part, is this work part and focus part and spending time and going deeper and deeper, which is always possible. I feel with these things, there are no limits.
Yeah.
We can always go into deeper understanding or different understanding.
Yeah. I was thinking that I know some people extremely creative, artists. They don't know anything about the body, but they do in their way. But they transported in the thing that they created. They create. Well, I'm thinking of a specific artist now that like he makes like a sculpture that move with the winds, and then they have beautiful shapes and of movement. He cannot move and he cannot dance at all, and he have very little awareness of his body. So who knows? It's some mysteries, but so I guess what I want to say is like it's not dogmatic. It's not that if you do somatic work necessarily become an artist. No, you have some openness into comfort, into also inspiration, into passion, and then you may do something with that. Or you may elaborate those feelings into another direction, into studies, into some people of the BMC world, they're passionate with science. They study science, and so I will not maybe emphasize too much the idea of creativity, but to get motivation, to get passionate about something.
Exactly.
That's yes. That I think this work can give.
Yeah, and actually, I also at the beginning didn't have this idea of creativity just as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I was also thinking about this direction of just like creativity in everyday life.
Yeah.
And by that I mean this spark. And it's also for me somehow related with the senses and perception.
Mm-hmm.
With this clarification or purification of the perception. Like you said at the beginning, I really liked what you said when you described the weather, how the sky is blue and that everything is sparkling. For me, at least, going within with these practices and finding out kind of like removes a veil from the senses, and then the experience of life becomes more alive, more sparkling, more shining.
Yeah.
And then it really doesn't matter if we produce something or don't produce, create art, not create art. It's just like the very living becomes art, right?
I like your words. I like your words of what you said about life, of being alive. Feel the appreciation of life, whatever life gives you, because it gives you disease and cancer. We look around about wars and the world the way it is, but to have this sense of consciousness and then in the body, I think it's a very firm standing point about life. At least I see that. I mean, I've always been a little girl, optimistic person, and also a little bit crazy, when I founded all these crazy things at 70 years old. But anyway, I think that the zest of life, it is something that has to do with the contact that you have with yourself in the flesh and bone, in the body, on this earth. I like that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And this now brings me to the topics of, let's say, spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Many, like, for example, religious currents would separate the body from the spirit, and like spirituality would become actually our consciousness leaving the body. Whereas I feel now we're going in the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like bringing more consciousness or awakening more consciousness here and now within this body.
I agree with you completely. Yeah. I don't know how to say in English, laico. Laico means a person who's not religious. But it's now ateo, which is agnostic. There are all these terms to say something. But it's not over something there, something away from my earthly life. Consciousness, consciousness is such a gift. I don't know. To me, it's such a gift. When I discovered that it could move, it could increase, it could shrink, and then you have to care for it. And then when I discovered that consciousness is life, it's not an abstract thing, so away from my body. Then I feel secure. I feel more secure. I feel more comfort and more secure. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I will be scared when it's my moment comes, of course. But I sometimes I think of that. Well, I still have that consciousness, which now, what can I say? Sometimes I play with it. It's like a company. Let's say I had a bad day, a difficult relationship with some people, difficult, or something, or didn't feel well physically. I go to bed and I have this play I do with feeling the whole universe is like containing me gradually condensing around my body. It's coming, and then it protects me. And I feel I use the play with my consciousness to feel united, not alone. And then I drop to sleep. I fall asleep. Then I fall asleep. Yeah. It's comfort.
Yeah. That's a beautiful practice, and it really is comforting. And
I don't meditate regularly, but there are so many other forms to meditate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, I was saying that even one moment when we strongly feel this, it's something that can give us courage for the rest of the life, because it somehow makes an impression.
You see the change, the Zoom room changed as we talked about this. Did you notice?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. I would even end now with this.
Yes. Yes.